Hi guys, Roberta Montagnini here, and in today's video I'm so excited. I will be showing you how I edit my images. What I do, I often open my image on Lightroom first, and I do some fine-tuning before I export the images and edit them, finalize them in Photoshop. So to begin with, I have chosen my favorite image, which is the one you can see right here, and I have just duplicated the image so you can see how the before looks. To start, I like making the image a little bit more interesting. So in this case, I want to make this image a little bit colder, so I'll change the temperature to a little bit more like 2500 for this image. So if you want to do something similar to your images and they're a bit yellow, just slide the temperature bar to the left and you're gonna get the images cooler. I think my exposure needs a little bit of increase too, so I'll just maybe right here I will put my shadows higher. I think I'll keep my highlights where they were. I make the vibrancy like around 12 and the saturation around here mostly, and also make it the blacks a little bit more black. Too much maybe, yeah, and contrast, a little bit of more contrast, yeah. Now for the tone and curve, I do this mostly for a lot of my images, which is I just increase this top bar a little bit higher, and the other one I probably leave where it is. And if you see this first arrow here, I like sometimes increasing it just a little bit, like in this case it was just 4% here. Now on this panel where saturation is, so it's the hue, saturation, luminance panel, which is the first one here. On the saturation, I like making my reds or any skin color less saturated. So I always remove the saturation a little bit, and in this case I'm using -20. It's very tiny. Then on the split toning, we just put around 45 and then maybe 10, then 45 and then 10. You can see the images. I brought some of the yellow back, but on an overall image, not just specifically in one place. Then on the detail panel, if we just zoom in close, I like reducing the noise. If you see, it's a little bit noisy, not much. And if you just put it around 40, let me see. Yeah, I think this is quite nice. I'll keep it like that. Then lens correction, I like removing the chromatic aberration if there are any. And I like enable profile corrections, because then my images might need some fine tuning. But I think the image looks better the way it was before. So just drag the distortion down to 0, so there are no distortion. So just have like some toning, transformation. Now I will add some vignetting to my image, not much, just a tiny bit to get a little more of the subject in focus. So I just put a 32, which is good, and that should be it. If I just want to edit a little bit more, I think I could, where I put the exposure, I think it was too much. I think around 40 should be nice. Maybe increase the shadows, because I want the image to pop, but I still want it to be a little moodier. Yeah, I think like right now the image is really perfect. So this is the before and after on Lightroom only. So I just added some color tones, and what I do now, I export this to Photoshop because I'm gonna edit right there. It's nicer. So just click edit on Photoshop and my image will open in Photoshop. Cool. So I have my images right here, my image right here. And now I can start to edit the image. So what I will create now is frequency separation. If you already know how to do this, you can skip. So to create the frequency, to create the frequency separation, you're going to need to duplicate this background twice. You're going to name the first layer texture and the second layer blur. You're going to group them, and you can create like a skin editing group. So they're all inside this group here. And another thing is, I like creating another layer, an empty layer, and I'll name this layer Dodge and Burn. And with my, what's the name of this tool? Paint bucket tool. I will paint this black, and then I'll open the saturation panel, hue and saturation, and I'll put the lightness to 50. Oops, sorry. To 50 plus. Okay, this color should be 80, 80, 80. So you can see here, 80, 80, 80. I even put here so you don't forget, hashtag 80, 80, 80. So this is the color your background should be, okay? Now, you just select the blending mode to be overlay. This way, you see nothing in the image. But I will explain this later when we go to that, when we work on that layer. So right now, I want you to hide both of these layers and just keep the blur layer on. And you're going to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. Zoom in close to your image so you can see the details. And let's put the radius just about where you start to lose some details on her face. I think for this image, 7.6 is perfect, and I'll click OK. Now you click back on your texture layer to bring it to attention, and you're going to go to Image, Apply Image, and here on this panel, on the source, where it says Layer, you should pick your blur layer, which is this one here, right below. And the blending mode should be Subtract, and opacity should be set to 100, scale should be 2, and offset 128, and you just click OK. Now, it looks a bit weird, but don't worry. Now on the texture layer, you're going to select the blending mode to linear light, and everything should be back at normal, how it was. So if I just hide this layer, you're going to see the images are exactly the same. If I hide the texture, you're going to see a blurred image. If I just keep the texture visible, you're going to see that weird layer. So what happens is I just separated the skin texture to the color texture, and now we can paint, we can fix the skin, the blur layer. We can fix anything without worrying about losing the texture. So with the blur layer selected, you're going to select your lasso tool, making sure the feather is higher than 20. Sometimes I use 20, sometimes I use 32. In this case, I'm going to use 20, and if I need changing, I will just change right there. So now I'll select a part of her face that I want to smooth out. I want this layer, this skin, to look more flawless, and I'll just select that part of skin, and now I'm going to the filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'll just pick a blur that I think will make some difference on her, on that skin part of hers. So right now at 30, I can see a lot of difference. Good. So I take that number and divide it by 2. So in this case, 15. Okay. And I'll use 15 for most of it. Because we've just used the Gaussian blur, it stays here on the just the recently used filter, and you don't need to go back to blur every time, like filter, blur, Gaussian blur all the time. All you have to do is to use this shortcut on your keyboard, and that effect will replicate. So now I'll just keep my lasso tool selected, and I'll just select other areas of her skin, and I'll use my shortcut to fix that skin area, and I'll use it over here, I use it over there, and I'll just do this everywhere I think the skin needs some treatment. Because I want this image to look high-end, I will do it all around the image. Try to avoid folds or when this or where the skin is drastically different. So in this case here, if you check the folds, the color is very dark, so I don't want that skin to blend with my selected area. And at the moment, I'm just using the shortcut to reapply my Gaussian blur filter. And I just select all the areas that I think needs improving. I love editing while I'm listening to music, but because I didn't want to feel distracted, because I want to explain step by step on how I do, I feel like, oh, I want to sing, but it's better not. And also, if you're wondering how I'm doing this fine lines, I'm using a tablet to do this because it enables me to have a better precision and to work faster as well when editing the images. So the amount of times you can run the blur, it really depends on the area you want to blend. The more you click the shortcut, the more you blur, the more blended it will look and the less details it will have. So just make sure you don't overdo it, but use it at your own, with your own taste. If you like it more, do it. By no means, do it what feels right. Do it what feels right. Okay, so you can notice here her skin is a little bit yellow. Sorry, red right there. So what I do, I normally get the brush tool, make sure the opacity is very low, flow like almost nothing, and you're gonna sample, making sure you're on the still on the blur layer, making sure select samples parts of the skin near the area, and just slightly stroke, brush over it, and you're just like making the skin look, the tone of the skin look more neutral. You can see the before and after. It's a lot of difference. Now, on the texture layer, we're gonna fix some texture on her face. I will still go back to the blur layer, but I just feel like right now we can start working on the texture layer. So I'm just gonna remove the things that I don't like. I'm also, by the way, I'm using the patch tool, and I'm on the texture layer. The patch tool, I can select the area that I want replaced. Make sure it's set to source here, and it's not using any pattern, so you just select the layer right here or right there, and you just do it until you get a good coverage. I love using the patch tool. I think it's great. It's fast. I prefer it sometimes over the stamp or clone tool. Healing brush, not stamp. Sorry. Now here I can see the makeup melted a little bit. Can just remove that. I'm just replacing the texture to make it look flawless. Could remove the tattoo, but it's totally up to you what and how you're using your images for. I think the tattoo there is not bad and it looks good. But if it's something you want to do, if you just do this and you can remove the texture first and then you just remove on the blur layer. So I'll do it quickly. Doing that and that, and then the tattoo is gone. But I want the tattoo, so I'm gonna keep it. Now, so remember there were some patches here I need fixing. Yeah. Now on the blur layer, you're gonna select your brush tool, making sure the opacity is low again, and the hardness is set to 0. Just pick a nice brush, and I'm just gonna paint to make the colors more even. If you think your image does not need that, it's fine. You don't need to do what I'm doing. I could remove the hair of her arms. Let me see how that would look. Yeah, I think I'll remove it. I'll use the same skin on her breasts, and then I'll just fixing the texture. This is a more dramatic look. Obviously, if you're doing this for a client, and if you have to edit like 40 images, this is probably not the best way to do it because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. Unless the client has paid for, but you could also have a professional retoucher doing this job for you too. Yeah, this is the before and after. I think it looks pretty nice. Now on the blur layer, I'll just make sure my skin tone is even and looks nice. I'm again using the oh god, what's the name? The lasso tool, but I like using the brush too as well, so I can do something more like manual job. Yeah, I think the image now looks absolutely how I want it. I absolutely love it, the before and the after. Oh, I just forgot one tiny bit near her eyes here. I forgot to fix her makeup. So now I'm on the blur layer. I'm just gonna fix that makeup a little bit, because I remember here the makeup was a little bit melted. I think I need to fix the texture too. Okay, yeah. Image is good, I'm happy, and now we can move on to the dodge and burn layer. So now selecting the dodge and burn layer, I need to make sure these two colors here are black and white, and I'm using my brush tool. Hardness set to 0. I'm just going to pick a higher number. I'm just going to make this 100 so you can see what I'm talking about. Right now, my brush is set to dark, so it's going to make it really dark, okay? If I use the white brush instead, it's going to make it really bright, right? So I will just control the flow and the opacity. I like using 10 for both. So 10 for opacity, 10 for flow, because this gives me a more precise control of how the intensity of, you know, either the light or the darkness or the brightness. So I'm just using the brightness right now. I'm just highlighting her cheeks slightly. I'm gonna highlight her makeup a little bit too here. Forehead slightly. Her nose, tiny bit. Her lips, just like this Cupid's bow area. Just giving some dimension to the lips. You can see the before and after the dodge. Now I'm gonna do something on her body too, where I think there should be highlights. I forgot her armpits. What I just need to do is to change the texture. And I'm using the brush now because I want the color to be more neutralized. And I can use my lasso tool. Use the texture to get rid of these fly ways here. So right now, having trouble, I'm gonna use my stamp tool to fix this. Before and after. I love it. It's pretty much finished. If you want where the blur layer is, you can always, maybe change the color of something or not. I probably keep this way. But I will just dodge and burn a little bit more on her, on the thing that she's holding. I'm gonna create some highlights on the sheet that she's holding. This is the before and after. I'll zoom in close so you can see her face, the before and after. Before and after here too. Obviously, it could be doing this forever. I could fix, like, I keep looking and like, oh, I forgot some details on her eyes. I can just go back there and fix. So right now, I'm really happy with how the images look. You can always add things to it, remove things. You can do as you like. Oh, on the dodge and burn layer too, I can make her eyes pop a little bit more. So just make sure it's set to 10, the intensity, and you just brushed it slightly to highlight the eyes. And here too, and then on the blur layer, I'll just change the color because it's a bit pink. So pink from the other side here. Put like that. And I think this is it. It's perfect. I love it. Now, one final trick. I recently bought a software called Alien Skin, which makes my image look even more refined. This is pretty much a filter software that is applied to your image. So right now I just merged my layers to the complete fine look. You can see here the before and after. And with this skin editing copy, which was the final result, I'll just go to filter, alien skin, and I'll go to exposure. Right now I might have my favorite filter already selected, which, oh yeah, the 600 faded. Okay, I absolutely love this filter, and I put the overall intensity to 50 because when it's like 100 I think it's too much. But if you lower the opacity here to about, like 50, I think it's absolutely stunning. I'm happy with this. I just click apply and the image is finished and it's done. I love this look. I love editing the images. It's so relaxing for me. I absolutely love doing this. If you like this editing video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, share with the people you know that might enjoy this video and learning from my editing tutorials. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more of this or something different, let me know and I'll be more than happy to do another video like that, like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye now.